Welcome to the American Roadrunner Podcast. My name's Brian Phillipson.
Yep, and I'm Bob Marshall. Glad y'all could join us here today on this, the American Roadrunner Podcast.
Now, we are in a lot of places. If you want to check us out online, you can find us at AmericanRoadrunnerTheBook.com. Also on Facebook at American Roadrunner The Book. That's American Roadrunner The Book. On Instagram, all one word, American Roadrunner. And if you have any comments, questions, cheers, and jeers, you can email us at AmericanRoadrunnerTheBook@gmail.com. And of course, this podcast can be found on AmericanRoadrunnerPodcast.com. All the things we do here are built around the book, aptly named American Roadrunner by Bob Marshall. You can find it on Amazon on paperback, ebook, and coming soon on audiobook.
That was going to be awesome, and I'm a little excited about. And we're pretty excited because today we got a guest on this, if you haven't guessed the name yet, the American Roadrunner Podcast. Mr. Brian?
Yeah, our guest today is Miss Kelsey Bohlman. Say hello, Kelsey.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you.
Now, Bohlman, that's not a common name. Where does that name come from?
It is very German. When my great-grandfather came over from Germany, we actually dropped off one of those N's to appear less German. So there used to be two N's on the end.
Less German. Did this have to do with a certain world war that happened a couple decades ago?
I cannot speak to that.
Jawohl.
I could see how a lot of German people were like, not me. Nope. I'm going to lose a couple letters of my name. So what do you do, Kelsey?
I am a 6th grade teacher.
How long have you been doing that?
I actually just started in August. I'm technically still interning, but I have my full contract up until May.
And you do ride. Do your kids know that you ride?
Oh, my kids know that I ride. They often tell me I'm the coolest teacher that they've ever had. They'll ask me they'll ask me, hey, Miss B, how's your motorcycle doing? Or ask me what type of rides I went on. They love it.
You are probably like the living embodiment of Van Halen, hot for a teacher to them.
I have been told that at least once or twice on random, unfortunate Bumble dates.
Nice.
Wow. So where are you from originally and where are you living now?
Born and raised in Mentone, California. Got to represent the 909. And I currently live in Mentone, California. I have not left the Inland Empire.
Very cool. All right, Kelsey. So you're from Mentone. Where do you like to ride?
I just kind of love to cruise around town, but definitely my favorite place to go is Joshua Tree for sure.
I've been camping a couple times in Joshua Tree. I can only imagine how it is to be on a motorcycle. What parts do you like around Joshua Tree? I'll see if I'm familiar with any of them.
Definitely love going out to Pappy and Harriet's, taking either way out to get there. It's nice to be in that desert scenery. One of my favorite times to go is actually after the sun is just setting because you have such a great view of the stars and it's gorgeous. It really puts you back in touch with the gorgeous desert that we have here in Southern California.
Yeah, I think Pappy and Harriet's is the first time I saw the Milky Way in real life living in Southern California.
Yeah.
I went out there and I was like, what's that in the sky? It's not smog. Right. And then somebody's like, yeah, that's the Milky Way. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like mother of God, there are stars.
Yeah, then I felt very, very small in the universe. Yeah. Cool. So, you've been riding how long, you said?
I got my license in June of 2016, so almost 3 years now. I'm still pretty new.
Yeah, so you consider yourself still amateur, novice, professional?
Yeah, amateur or novice, I'm not sure
I
what
would think very novice. You've kept up with me once or twice, so you got my vote.
Yes.
Have you crashed yet?
I have not crashed on my bike. I'm going to knock on wood. When I was learning how to ride, I dropped the street 750 that I was learning on and picked it back up like a champ and kept going. So, no, I have not had a full out.
I believe her. I don't think she cried. I think she picked it up like a champ and kept going.
Yeah?
I did. I was like one of the only girls in my class, and I'm like, not today,
Yes, you can't say motherfucker here.
Not today, motherfuckers.
We're a room full of motherfuckers. So at the point where a lot of people would stop and say, this isn't for me, I'm never gonna ride again, you looked at that bike and said, no, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I looked at that bike and said, "Oh fuck yeah, we're gonna do it." And I've had a couple of moments like that. I would be lying if I sat here and said, "Oh, everything was just so absolutely great." I've had many moments where I sat there and I was like, "Oh God, no, I'm never getting back on it again." And here I am today, and I absolutely love it and live for it. It's the best thing ever.
Have you ever gotten the speed wobbles? Like,
Oh my gosh, I started to get them one time, but that's honestly my greatest fear of riding. And that's my least favorite thing about riding with Bob is he likes to go really fast, and I live in fear that my bike is just going to develop these speed wobbles and I'm going to eat
boy.
pavement. That's my fear.
That's what I fear. I've never been on a motorcycle, but I've seen that happen. And I'm like,
I'm
yeah, I
pretty
don't know about
sure
that.
it's an irrational fear. I'm
No,
pretty
well, yeah, you
not
know the
100%.
corrective, right? You understand the.
Yeah.
And just in case the audience didn't see that, that was me in a speed wobble and pushing forward with both hands on the handlebar. Some people try to catch up with the wobble, but our brains just aren't able to think fast enough. So the answer is, if you ever find yourself in a good speed wobble, slightly, very gently, for 1/10 of a second, let go and push forward on the bars as hard as you can, and you'll get right out of that wobble
So you
without issue.
you can't throw your arms up and say, Jesus, take the wheel.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's no wheel.
Although-
So, Jesus, take the bars.
Yeah, Jesus takes wheels, not handlebars. You got to do your part.
You got to
though.
save yourself.
The universe has a plan for us, I do agree, but you got to do your part, so it's okay to push forward. But a lot of that will come from, if the air pressure is a little off in your tire, if it's a little proud in the front or a little weak. I like to run my front tires just a pound or two below recommendation. That seems to be what always works for me.
Okay.
If it says run 31 pounds, I might do 30, 29 on a cold. But you got to check it every month regardless. Tire pressure is very important. Please know that I am not justifying exactly how to put air pressure in your tires. However, I do like to run a pound or two low in front and then a pound or two proud in the rear. It might have something to do with my larger frame as a human being.
A pound or two.
Say it again, Bob.
A pound or two low in the front and then a pound or two proud in the rear.
That's what
That's
she
the
said.
part. That's the part I liked. A pound or two proud.
Holy hell, I really walked into that one, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
I love it.
God
I'm
forgive
going to
me.
use that from now on. I'm a pound or two proud. In all things.
I'm
the
sorry
rear.
in advance for my terrible jokes and foul language. When you work with kids all day and have to super censor yourself, when I
Yeah.
release it, it just comes out.
Go
You can't
for it.
stop this flow.
Go
You're in
for it.
good place, Miss Bohls.
That's good. That's
And we're
good
not
to
going to
know.
tell your kids about this podcast.
For the love
so.
of God, please don't.
Those little
I'm gonna be like,
motherfuckers.
listen, all you 6th grade little. I'm just kidding. I'm totally joking.
Hey, you know what? That was quite a digression. If I could back up again, back to Pappy and Harriet's and Joshua Tree. I love camping out there. I'm sure you love camping. Do you camp out there, or do you have another spot that you camp when you're on your motorcycle?
So Joshua Tree is the only spot that I've been camping on my motorcycle so far, but I do have 11 years loud and proud Girl Scout experience, and my mom was our troop leader, so she made us camp. We weren't one of those like frou-frou troops that got to go to Disneyland.
Yes, don't we have cookies? I think we got Girl Scout cookies.
I
here
have
tonight.
bought so many Girl Scout cookies over the course of my life.
That's a-
You got to support. But so all we did was camp, and I can pitch a tent by myself.
You can pitch
Ding.
a what?
I
By
can.
your what?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. Where's our sound
Oh,
effects?
I
Like
believe it.
boing.
We do need a little bell.
We
I know,
should
I'm
mention
sorry.
Kelsey's not bad on the eyes. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Not
I
too
think she's
shabby.
quite single these days as well.
Oh,
aren't
super
you?
single. Oh yeah. Don't you
Super
know it?
single.
There will definitely be some pictures of the podcast on our website, so go check it out and see the beautiful
Girl
Kelsey. She will be taking pictures for the American Roadrunner calendar coming out in the end of the year, so look forward to that.
Oh, that's fucking cool. That's
The funny
fucking
thing
rad.
is, it'll come out at the end of the year, but it'll still be for 2019.
Yeah.
So it won't be very. But
Yeah.
you'll be
Heard
in it,
that
so it'll
before.
be like
It's vintage.
between you and Tracy and producer Tracy. Totally,
Oh, I'm so sorry. We keep getting off on these fantastic.
No, this is what we
perfect.
do. I mean, it was all just coming back to Bob in a bikini. That's where I was going with this whole calendar
I
shoot
will
thing.
steer it away from that as best I can.
no, I was doing that up in Kernville. Remember?
I wasn't there, but I've
Oh, you
heard.
weren't there?
I've
Oh,
heard.
you heard?
Oh, I've
Dunk tank.
heard it through the grapevine.
My undies.
I heard about that. Yeah.
It was
So-
good.
Undies.
My undies.
Speaking of your undies, as a female rider, I'm quite curious. What underwear do you find are the best and most comfortable to wear whilst riding? Do you prefer the tighty whitey brand or the loose and
This is
flowy
hilarious.
boxers, or those ever comforting, quite flattering boxer briefs?
Wow, this is hilarious. That's a good question. I will say, I've heard more women talk about this than men, honestly, because most women, they want, I think they're called Jessica Boy shorts to wear when they're riding, so stuff ain't riding in the wrong place. And then they talk about, what pads they might wear when they're riding, no matter what. I've heard more women talk about this than men. Okay, I'm going to shut up now because obviously I have no idea what I'm talking about. But
I can answer that question. I just didn't want to interrupt you.
Yes.
For me, I want to pack whatever is the smallest. So if I can cram 16 thongs into a ball and shove them into the bottom of my bag, I will do that. Because, when you're camping or going on any trip, you pack underwear like you're going to have like a shitstorm every day.
Really?
16 thongs.
Don't you overpack underwear? I always overpack underwear and socks.
I might bring a change. I might not. I got baby powder. I'm fresh as a daisy every day. I don't need.
Oh,
Yeah, you
Lord.
left out going commando. How
Right.
many people go commando when they're riding?
There's probably that. Apparently, producer Tracy does. She just raised her hand.
Yes, she does.
I feel like
That's
on a
great.
motorcycle, you'd probably get a little bit of an irritation, a little crotch rash.
Maybe. So the answer is yeah. I'm a boxer briefs fan, and if it happens to be cold, I'll usually wear like thicker undershorts. Like they're shorts. That's what they are. So I'll wear those as well. But the answer is the more you put between you and the saddle, it usually hurts a little more. So I used to think I was really cool, and I would pick up those Under Armour chones, but I gotta tell you, those really reek after racing in them for a day or two. So it just wasn't my thing. So I just learned to stick to the boxer briefs. So yes, the answer is boxer briefs, and baby powder is my friend.
Just do like
Right.
Kelsey and pack like 16 thongs.
You
You
just
don't
got to
need any
prepare
Under
for that
Armour.
shitstorm. You just
Yeah.
have to
Well,
prepare.
and I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I was talking with a young man, and he was afraid to travel because he didn't know where to put his pants because he was certain he was going to shit himself. I don't know what.
Okay.
I've never done that. I don't know how people.
Is
I
this
want to
something that
go.
happens?
I want to go on record. I have never shat myself. I don't bring them because it's going to happen. I'm just pre-preparing.
And I reckon a thong wouldn't catch much in that regard anyway. So
Maybe
Oh, no.
maybe I'm missing something about the whole motorcycle culture thing.
Me too.
Does the engine like jumbo your bowels to where you feel like you're gonna shit yourself sometimes? Is this a common occurrence?
No.
Or does
No. I mean,
Okay.
unless you're nervous when you're riding, and that could happen if there are new riders listening. I remember being, 17, 18, 19, and like hopping my motorcycle, my first little motorcycle to, the college and whatnot, or just going a few miles down the road. And after a few miles, that was it. Like I was
Yeah.
done, and I was a little nervous, and I was hanging on a little too tight. But, you aren't nervous when you drive a car. You don't hang onto the steering wheel with a death grip. So after a little bit of practice, you learn to not to do that on a motorcycle. So there's no reason,
I
right, Kels?
could not agree more. I remember the first time I rode on the 210 out to Victoria Gardens. It was the first time I had been on the freeway and like an idiot agreed to ride the 210, which is notoriously windy. By the time I actually made it there, I had like an upset stomach. I felt sick to my stomach because I was so scared.
Right,
I was
right.
gripping those handlebars, just hanging on for dear life. And I made myself so sick. My hands were just sore at the end of it. And ever since
Right.
then, you just kind of learn.
you take the streets?
You take the
When
streets
you're-
and you get there when you get there. No,
No, jump on
yeah.
the highway. It's much safer.
Okay.
It really is, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering. I mean, I could see that happening. Not just anxiety, but maybe if you have a strong enough engine, it kind of knocks something loose.
Well, I'll tell you, I was talking to my good buddy Chopper Charlie, Mr. Traveling Chopper Charlie, today about that. And he was going on and on about there's a gentleman who holds the record right now for cross-country motorcycle race from L.A. to New York at 38.75 hours or something. And he was talking about getting pretty close to that record on his rigid. And he's rigid in front, rigid in the rear. He's got about 200,000 miles on this motorcycle of his, so it's pretty exciting to think of him doing it on that. But one of the big topics that we got to talk about, and we had to laugh about it, was him and me both like to wear our riding suits, or we both like to wear overalls and coveralls and everything else. But it's a good 20-minute production if you got to go, so how do you make sure you're not going so much? So him and I were sharing secrets for probably a good 30 seconds before we stopped and said, this is kind of ridiculous. We really shouldn't talk, like men shouldn't talk this way to each other, about bowel movements and scheduling bowel movements and whatnot. But I'm usually good for once a day myself. if I happen to be hauling ass, across country, it's going to happen once or twice. There's just nothing to be done about it. So, anyways, enough about that subject.
I can imagine a butt plug would be pretty uncomfortable on a motorcycle for how many hours? Jesus.
Yeah, right. And he's talking about maybe using a condom catheter, which is pretty cool. It's something we'll have to look into. The NASA astronauts are real big on it, but
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Catheter.
Yeah, it's a condom. It just, grabs on and makes a nice little...
Suction?
Well, no, it's just a hose. I reckon you could just run it down to the road,
So you got like a Camelback with the hose in the front, and then another second Camelback.
Yeah.
Don't cross the stream.
Don't cross the streams. Don't plug the wrong one in. That's not lemonade.
Right. And I reckon you'd want to hook it to your frame or something and make sure you unhook it when you stand up and get off the bike. Otherwise, it's going to tug on you real nice. I don't know. I've never used one. I just stop and use the bathroom when I need to and make sure my intake equals my output, so but we all do it differently. So that was a good discussion on one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
So.
It just gives you a reason to pull over and enjoy the view every so often, right?
That is very true. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things about being on the bike is you can just stop. And there have been many times I've taken even just local rides. In Mentone, you can actually go out. I think you're technically heading northeast a little bit out towards Highland on Garnet Street, and you can stop on the bridge that crosses over. I think it's I don't even know if it's the creek. I don't know. Or the water runs off. I can't think of it. I'll think of the name later. But you just stop on that bridge, and I've sat there many times just on the back of my bike and taken in the scenery, watched the sunset.
And this is Mentone Beach, right?
This isn't the beach. I don't talk about the beach anymore.
Oh, you don't talk about the beach
anymore. It's been tainted.
anymore.
As a kid, I went there and it was fantastic. As an adult, I will never
Not
set foot
so
in there.
much.
Don't go to Mentone Beach. But
I know.
the views are nice, and the nice part is you're out there experiencing it. You're on the bike. You're in that moment. You don't have to get out of your car, and you get to experience everything.
Make a production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just hop off. And I did the same, traveling up to the river through Joshua Tree with my dad as a kid. So being anywhere in Southern California desert these days just reminds me of being a kid there with my dad. So I'm glad you get to experience these days on two wheels. That's really cool.
It's nice. I love it.
Yeah, you know what? As a woman who rides, it sounds like you love it, of course, talking about traveling and the views and everything. What kind of advice do you have for other women who don't ride that might want to ride?
I would say, as cliche as it sounds, just do it. As a kid, I was super shy, reserved. I claim that I have social anxiety. I don't like to put myself out there much, but getting on that motorcycle was, I don't want to say it was like a crutch, but it was something else that I had there, and it's given me so much confidence. I love it. It's something that I can do on my own, which is great, and it gets me more comfortable, but I can also do it with friends and just get a big group of people together and just ride and have an amazing time. It has definitely helped me out in more ways than I can count.
Very cool.
I love it.
She does do well at keeping up.
I try.
Kelsey, I'm really excited to have you on here because, as some may or may not know, I've gotten to have a lot of fun poking fun at you for all the cool things that you think are cool that I think are ridiculous. And we've gotten to have great discussions on the rights and wrongs of riding motorcycles. But I do have to give you credit for keeping up with me, Kelsey. I can imagine that can be hard to do. Although I'm usually just cruising along, so...
I do have a question that I think I overheard you saying it, maybe on a podcast or somewhere. Do you not have a speedometer on your motorcycle?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I do. Let me think. Last time we rode together, I was on my pop scoot.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that motorcycle technically does have a speedometer, but it's located under my tank bag, so I can't see it.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I really don't pay attention to those things. I'm more interested in how the bike's running, what the road conditions are, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, if we can keep the distractions forward instead of behind us, I'm always going to be moving, 65 miles an hour where the next person's only going 64 miles an hour. So it may look like I'm in excess of the speed limit, but I'm usually not. But yeah, speedometers just aren't very cool. So thanks for asking.
Well,
I just
you're
don't
so
pay
welcome.
attention to them.
Just
That's
count
a good
telephone poles and
Yeah.
small towns.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep up on.
There are lots of other things to occupy your hands with.
Well,
while
there really
riding.
are, because you have to think about it. Speed equals control. Control equals what we all as human beings think we have, but the answer is we don't have control. What I do have control over is how well my engine's running and how well my body's feeling and how well the weather's treating me and how well the road's treating me. When you're on a rigid, the road's real busy telling you exactly what it's doing, and every so often it sucker punches you. And by every so often, I could mean every minute, every 10 minutes. Your kidneys remind you that you're alive. So it's very important to pay attention to that. The speedometer, the control, law enforcement, all that stuff. As long as you're not an idiot doing stupid things, law enforcement isn't going to give you an issue. Of course, I've been pulled over for going too fast, usually on my gold wing, go figure. I've been, lit up a few times where they just flash their lights at me. I get it. I apologize. I was doing 66 instead of 65. Forgive me. But for the most part, yeah, it's just a control number. And we as humans like to feel like we're in control.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in how the bike's doing and how the road's doing with the bike that I'm astride. Piloting,
right.
So
fair enough. That's a solid answer.
That's where it comes from. Although we did have a good argument the other day. You were saying how much you enjoy a good chase vehicle when you're out camping.
I never said that.
Oh, really?
Wait, what's a chase vehicle? I've never heard of this.
So she was talking about what someone was following you. You could put all your gear in their car.
Okay.
All your gear in their car.
So the only reason I said that is because 3 new ladies who are relatively new to riding want to go to Babes Ride Out, which is up in the Central Coast, not our backyard of Joshua Tree this year. And they're a little apprehensive about packing all the gear onto the back of their bike. So they were like, oh, we should have, someone follow behind us and we can just throw our stuff in there. So I was like, yeah, if it'll get you guys to go, sure, why not?
You're being a team supporter.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking after someone very great that I know. Not, she doesn't use chase vehicles, but she's like a leader of the pack. I'm talking about Annette.
Den mother kind of thing.
She's my inspiration. I love her so much.
Annette.
Yeah, she's nothing to do with age. She's just a badass biker chick, and I want to take a cross country trip like her, and I just look up to her a lot. I love Annette.
Yeah.
That's killer.
We're gonna have to have her on the next podcast.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
She's the best. Fuck yeah.
I'm kind of a fan, in case y'all haven't noticed. I'm a fan. Well, I think you're right, and I wish I had $1 for every time I saw someone say, "Oh, I'll be your chase vehicle," and then the chase vehicle gets lost, or the chase vehicle breaks down, or the chase vehicle can't keep up with the scoots, or regardless. Mm-hmm. The answer is 99 times out of 100, it's a bad idea. That's just my opinion. I'm just going to throw it out there. You got to be able to carry all your own stuff, whatever that may mean. It is nice if you have a host and you show up. Maybe they're serving coffee every morning if you're camping, but it's not necessary. I just prefer to wait an hour or two to have coffee and jump on the scoot and ride into town. Or usually when we're at these fine camping events that we're at, they tend to have us, they've got the coffee vendors, and that one guy from Black Cat, I got him now where he's chasing me around with coffee because he knows how important it is to me. That guy's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But, yeah,
Well, I do agree with you. I think I learned a lot from having to pack out all of my gear on the back of my bike. I remember the first time I went to Babes, that was only about 4 months after I had gotten my license and bike. So it was my first big trip and first time I'd ever been camping. So I had my stuff just packed on the back and I was terrified. And it's pretty windy. I don't know, like anybody that hasn't been out there riding the 62 out to Joshua Tree, it's a little sketchy. I remember at times it was just like the bike is at like a 45-degree angle is what it felt like. I'm like, there's the ground right there. But definitely builds character, gives you confidence. You learn. And on the way back, I packed it differently, like riding behind other girls that had it packed expertly and like, I should have turned that. Why didn't I do this? And I need more bungees. So.
Well, you do. You need more straps, more bungees.
You learn a lot
use
from
straps and bungees, and then the nets. Of course, I love the nets. All pun intended.
Aha!
I'm a fan of the nets.
I know.
Hey, you know what I forgot to ask you, Kelsey? What do you ride?
I have a 2015 Harley-Davidson 72. I absolutely love it. It's my second bike. My first bike was a 2005 Harley-Davidson Sportster. They both have the same size engine, though, so I didn't upgrade. I just got a smaller gas tank.
Same size gas tank, yeah. Oh,
it's a little bit smaller, yeah. just a
Well,
tiny bit.
regardless, it doesn't have the fairing, so that's not throwing you around in the wind.
Correct.
It doesn't have any hard bags or any of that
Nope.
crap throwing you around in the wind. So
And it's got some badass Vance and Hind pipes on it, and I like loud things.
It is a beautiful motorcycle,
Thank
I gotta
you.
say, and it's one that I would be afraid to ride my first time because I wouldn't want to drop that thing. I'd want a beat up motorcycle, like an equivalent of like a 1991 Nissan Sentra of a motorcycle that I can just like break down and roll off a cliff if I don't know how to control it and I'm like, oh shit, and I just jump off of it and it whatever
out.
just crashes. Yeah, I would not want a nice motorcycle for my first ride.
yeah, it doesn't really work like that. But,
Don't kill his dreams
I
yet.
just want to pull the parachute like and then fly off and the motorcycle just goes and blows up.
Well, it wouldn't. If you were,
Got
you should
Evil
definitely
Knievel
get a
over here.
Kawasaki or a Honda. Like those won't blow up on you. You'll roll them off a cliff, and they'll be even better.
Yeah.
And the bars
Okay.
will be straight, and you'll be good to go.
Pin it
so.
to win it all day.
I gotta
Yeah.
take you Honda shopping someday then.
Yeah, that's how I do it. I don't even own a Harley anymore these days. I've owned tens of them, maybe 10 of them, but regardless.
What do you think of the little Honda scooter things that look kind of like motorcycles? I see guys riding those all the time. They're not
yeah.
like Vespas. They're just like tiny motorcycle things.
I think you're talking about the
Grom.
Grom, yeah.
Yeah.
My little brother had one of those. He was in like a Grom gang around Redlands, Mentone area.
They are so badass because they're these small bikes. And as a tall woman, I wanted one for as long as I can remember because I would just look absolutely ridiculous on them. And you can just like customize the hell out of them. And I watched a YouTube video where they took a Grom and I want to say I don't know how they transformed it, but it was a Grom Cotty. It was a Grom Ducati mix.
Whoa.
So it was a bike that just hauled ass. And I was like, oh my God, that looks like so much fun.
Yeah, the Groms are cool, but then there's also the
Ruckus?
Ruckus. That's
The
what I'm
Ruckus.
thinking of. That's what
Are
I'm
you
thinking of.
Ruckus? Okay.
Yeah, like
Those
a
are way
Ruckus. I
cool.
mean, yeah, they look kind of cool, but
Well,
at the
yeah.
same time, like, should I just go for the regular motorcycle
Yes.
or start on a Ruckus?
No.
Yeah, you should start on a regular motorcycle.
It's not like
'Cause I
a-
do the little bike races, but the little bike races, that takes a lot. I mean, you got to pin the hell out of these suckers all day long just to do 55, and keep up. And these guys bring out Vespas and they bring out old, 160s, 5s. I mean, just all sorts of crazy old little motorcycles. And in America, we're the only place that has really big motorcycles. Everywhere else in the world, the little motorcycles are the way to go because they don't have interstate systems, they don't have highways, they don't have whatever it may be. My 250 Rebels would be huge, anywhere else in the world, but in America, they're small. So you can travel the world, I think, on a 250. I don't know. Last time I saw some guys travel the world on motorcycles, they were on really big BMWs. It didn't make any sense to me. They would have done just fine on some 250s, but...
Yeah.
No, I'm a big fan of the little bikes and the little bike racing. That's, why I race the little bikes. But it's a totally different world. You have to draft off vehicles. You have to draft. Well, in fact, I got Kelsey drafting the other night.
Really?
I'm like, here, come up next to me. Let me show you what this is like. And we were frozen. That was the
Yeah, it
problem.
about saved my life. That was when we were coming home from the women's motorcycle show in Los Angeles.
Right.
And I got home at like 2 a.m. and it was 38, 39 degrees out. And I was not smart like Bob and Annette and didn't wear a bunch of layers. So I had my jeans, my boots, I had tall socks on. I had bought a shirt and put that on over my other shirt and just had like 2 jackets on. I was so cold.
She was
Oh
frozen.
my gosh,
I
she
felt sorry.
saved my life right at home because we were drafting behind that big rig and it kept me warmer. And I was like, oh my God, this is life changing.
Just for like those 10 or 15 minutes of
but that's all you need. You don't need
not
that.
legal activity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Drafting.
here's my amateur question. What is drafting? I mean,
Nice.
I've heard that before. I've heard it in like NASCAR. Is it kind of like the same thing with motorcycles?
It's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
If you can find a big rig, and when it's cold and you're drafting behind a big rig, these big rigs are putting off all sorts of heat from their engines. So all of a sudden, you went from being in 38 degrees plus wind chill factor, which would equal like 22 degrees, you went to being 45 degrees plus wind chill factor. So now you've gone back up to 38 degrees maybe. And just having that 10, 12 degree difference for 10 or 15 minutes is just enough to keep you from going insane and hypothermic. Now, if you can ever find a bobtail rig that doesn't have a trailer, that's going to be really nice and toasty. And they're usually moving a good click. They're usually going 64, 65, so you can keep up with them.
Is that dangerous?
Oh, yeah. It's very illegal. The big rig drivers get pretty mad about it. So you kind of learn. I always refer to it as who's going to be your friend on a little scoot. And mostly I'm teaching you this, Kelsey, because somebody just won a nice pole start at the Women's Motorcycle Show a few weeks ago. Let's hear about it.
So we entered in because they do these awesome raffles through MotoFam, and all of the money that they make, they give back to riders and families who have been injured or need help, whatever it is. So it's this awesome organization, and any chance I can participate in the raffles, I do. And I had put in, they had this sick ass mini bike. It was a Coleman. I didn't even know Coleman made mini bikes. My knowledge of Coleman is tents and sleeping bags and occasional lanterns.
Right.
But Coleman Power Sports makes a mini bike, and I was like, oh my god, that's so fucking cool. So I put in I think I bought $30 worth of tickets, and I put a bunch in for that. And then they had this really cool one-piece jumpsuit, and I put a bunch in there, and I was like, you know what, I've got to win something. And it's getting cold, it's getting late, and Annette and I are just freezing and looking at each other. I'm like, I didn't wear enough. And so her and Bob start to go out toward the bikes, because it was at this point it was after.
I'm gonna be eating a Girl Scout cookie while we talk about it. It's gonna be good.
I think it was after 11 o'clock, and it was just freezing. And Annette didn't win the Sennas that she wanted, so I was like, I just want to stay and see if I got that mini bike. And I'm just standing there freezing, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do it. They made it till the very last thing, and so I'm just just fucking call the numbers already. And I just in slow-mo, I'm winning the World Series, coming around to home plate. She's just reading off the numbers, and I'm just oh my god. And I just stopped, and I was like, oh my god, that's my ticket. And I was I just remember walking up fuck yeah. And I walk up to the bike, and I just slammed the back seat, and I was like, this bitch is mine. I was just ecstatic. And then the next thing that comes into my mind was oh fuck, I have to get this home, because we rode there, and I was I have nothing.
I think we could have tied it up to the back of my dad's bike.
Oh my god.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Maybe. But Rocio was there, and she's a friend of ours, and she's oh, we drove. We can put it in the back of her, I think it was a RAV4. Right. So the bike was totally dry, had no fluids in it, so we were able to get it in on its side in the back of her car, and she took it home, and then I picked it up from her probably a week. I picked it up from her a week later, got it in the back of my Jeep, took it home.
That's awesome.
I'm so stoked to ride it. I was looking it up. The fastest it goes is 24 miles per hour. I can't wait to mob around in that thing. I'm going to learn how to do wheelies on it too. I'm stoked.
That's pretty good.
We're going to have to see some pictures of that. Maybe put those on the site as well. Pictures or it didn't happen.
I could not agree more. I love it. It's bright red, and it came with a new Biltwell helmet that actually fits my head. Nice. So I got a helmet and a bike, and I only paid I was $25 or $30 in tickets, and the bike retails at $500, and the helmets are at least $100 and something. So the come up was real.
Well, I tell you what you do. Okay, if you really want to meet those Common Core standards and raise those grades, you just have a contest with your kids that whoever gets the best graded class wins that little bike. You will be the coolest teacher in the world. Oh my god.
It was funny because that was a Saturday that show was, and when I came back on Monday, my students, I like to just kick the shit with them on Monday mornings to just kind of talk about their weekends, and they were like, oh, Miss B, how was your weekend? And I was like, I forgot to tell you guys. And so I had a couple of pictures of me on the bike, and I showed them that, and they're like, that's so cool, are you gonna bring it to class? And I was like, oh no, I don't know about that. They're like, well, aren't you gonna ride it up here? And I was like, no, it would take me forever to make it up the 15 to get it here. But it was awesome. They were happy for me, and they were all applauding, so it was great. I'm trying to get all these kids riding motorcycles. Their parents will thank me when they're adults, for sure.
The ones that survive.
Oh, God. That got dark.
Timmy never made it to college because of Kelsey.
Yeah, you're welcome. No. Timmy's going to make it to college super fast because he'll be going down the carpool lane.
Exactly.
Right.
He'll be getting there before everyone else. And getting all the hot chicks.
Preferred parking.
Riding Piloteer.
Mm-hmm. You go,
Preferred
Timmy.
Parking.
Piloteer.
That's right. Yeah, I never understood everyone's worried about. Could you imagine if everyone's kid rode a motorcycle, how much more as a society we'd be more aware of people riding motorcycles?
I do
Just
agree.
saying. I mean, it isn't hard to figure out.
Not just awareness. I think there'd be more of a mutual respect for others and for the road because,
That's
right.
Right.
You're not in that protective steel bubble of a car.
I know
you got to be more conscious of everything.
I just see us all protecting all the little kids on their little scoots cruising around town and on the highways and whatnot.
That would be great.
Let's all watch out for our children. And, they've done a lot of numbers of games on it, but if every single male, not female, but if every single male between 20 and 30 rode a motorcycle instead of driving a car, we would have zero traffic congestion. Just going to throw it out there. The numbers are really that real.
Numbers don't lie.
They really don't.
So with that, we're announcing our campaign. It's going to be
Hell
Two
yeah.
Wheels for Teenagers.
Join your local abate. Make it happen.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
You can send your money to American Roadrunner Podcast Patreon, and we'll make sure
We'll throw it forward.
your
Let me
kids
some
get a
more coffee.
motorcycle.
Well, that only leads us to the future, Kelsey. I seem to think that your future seems really bright. I'm thinking maybe you picture yourself out on America's highway, running like a motherfucker, enjoying the road, and camping in the gutters, and dressing like a man so people know you're not a woman.
Well, you had me until that last part.
You didn't like it?
Well, I don't know why I'd have to dress like a man.
Do you have reservations or concerns about traveling by yourself as a female?
I really don't, actually. So part of why I like to work out and be strong as fuck, not only to lift heavy things, is because it gives me confidence. I feel more confident in, my abilities if anything were ever to happen. But also I tend to make pretty smart, calculated decisions. I'm not going to put myself in a super sketchy situation, make sure that I'm fully prepared. But I mean, shit happens, life happens. I just like to think that I'm pretty quick on my feet and could maneuver myself out of any sketchy situation.
Because, there's a way Annette does it by herself cross country.
Well, I'm not certified in 27 different states.
Right, like some. And so your way of doing it might be more getting yourself out of situations with cleverness, not dressing like a man per se.
I could dress like I'm pretty tall. I like to, and that's my problem with motorcycle gear. And maybe this is a super digression again, but it's hard to wear motorcycle gear. Like the jacket that I'm wearing now is an extra large because I need it long in the arms, and it's not long enough in the arms in my opinion, but it's super wide in the body. Yeah. So women's motorcycle gear doesn't always fit me. But I don't wear men's motorcycle gear because it's not comfortable. So I'm kind of that in between thing. So I dress sort of like a hobo at times.
Well,
just jeans, boots.
Yeah, but you've got all the feminine
beanie.
Curves, so I'm not sure how you'd work.
They get
like
under the baggy layers that I wear, though.
Oh,
so.
yeah, okay.
So is this really an issue, like
No,
harassment in the motorcycle community towards women?
I've personally not really been harassed. People like to wave at me or give me thumbs up. One time I did have some creepy guy record me while I was riding my motorcycle. That was a little odd. But I've never had anyone really heckle me. A lot of people, and I think it's men that ride that just catch me while they're in their car, will be like, oh, fuck yeah, thumbs up, or that's really awesome that you ride. I've never had any stupid comments yet, but I mean, I haven't been riding too long. I'm waiting for it.
We had a few the other night, but you were real good when we stopped at that In-N-Out.
Oh, yeah.
You were real good working around that.
Yeah.
You also have a really loud motorcycle, so you probably don't hear half the things that men are yelling at you.
Well, yeah, and that's, yeah, exactly. When it also, yeah, it does. It helps because I worked serving beer for a couple of years, and I've dealt with all sorts. Somebody called me an elf one time, oh, you look like the elf from the Lord of the Rings, and I was like, okay, get your fucking movie straight. Come on. Or fairy from Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, I was called a fairy. I was like, there are no fairies. If you're gonna come at me with Lord of the Rings, you got to get that correct. But so I can handle uncomfortable situations. So I want to go cross country for sure. I'm definitely gonna, dress as a lady and kick ass and take names as best I can, but it's a whole different level of independence that I kind of strive for. I'm super independent right now, but I think that's because I want to live my own life. I want to do it the way that I want to do it. I want to enjoy it. If someone comes into my life and I have a great partner to share it with, that's fine, but I never want to have to rely 100% on someone. And I think that's what my motorcycle has given me. So it's that's mine. I don't have to have a, co-pilot or a passenger sitting in the passenger seat helping me get from one destination to the next. It's I have to rely on myself to get there. So it's one thing that I love, and I want to be able to take a cross-country trip to not only prove to myself that I can do it, but just to experience that.
So camping in a gutter or a rest stop on the side, maybe more like Bob Marshall style.
I'm so down for that. I can be pretty frou-frou at times, but when it comes to Babes Ride Out, I'll wear the same pair of pants the whole entire time. I've reworn socks. I always bring 16 thongs, though. You always got to be prepared for that.
That actually, it made me think of a question. Since you said it's kind of difficult for you to find riding apparel like your size, would you ever consider like making your own line of women's riding apparel? Just because it does seem like something that I mean, Bob always talks about how more women are riding these days. There's a huge audience for that.
God.
So, I mean, is that a market that, you know, should be tapped? I mean, would you be somebody who would want to make riding apparel?
It would be cool too. There are a lot of companies out there, and this is the problem. I don't want to like say anything and have people like, oh, she's such a bitch. I love At Wild. They're a company that make motorcycle clothes, and they have some great stuff, but it's more on the pricey side. But that's because they provide really quality things. So I wouldn't want to put some shitty product out there that, while it fits great and looks great, it's like, oh, you know, it's not going to hold up because if you go down, you're screwed. I think what it's going to come down to for me is just investing more in really quality stuff. And you kind of have to, it's almost like boutique shopping for motorcycle gear. Because there are things out there that do fit me a little bit better, but it's hard because sometimes if I'm more comfortable riding, I'm going to be more cognizant of my ride and the things going around. But if I'm uncomfortable because my jacket's too tight or it's too short, then that's going to be my focus. It's really hard for me to get that off my mind. So I'm paying less attention to everything around me, and that puts me in harm's way. So it's like, you know, I kind of have to find that proper balance and gear out appropriately.
And I appreciate you mentioning it because you've been riding for a while and you're still looking for the balance. And I know, as I've ridden with you, I've seen you fuss with your gloves, or I've seen you, and I've gone, well, you know, being the asshole that knows everything, let me give you my opinion. You've always taken it well, but I know for myself, it took me a long time to really get comfortable. My riding gear, a lot of it I've made just because I can't find what I'm looking for. Stuff doesn't fit right. I have very short legs and a very tall torso, so that's why when I sit down at a table, I look like I'm 7 feet tall, but then I stand up, I'm only 6'2", so it turns into a real problem. But yeah, I've got real short legs, so I get to make a lot of stuff for myself.
Yeah.
And so I do sew, and I do have a monster sewing kit, and I do have all the fun stuff, and I learned how to sew because of it.
Yeah. So
take your time with it, have a good time with it, and it's okay. If it isn't perfect the first time, it may be perfect the second or third time. Good for you.
Yeah.
So if you are a tailor out there listening to this, know that there's an untapped market of motorcycle riders that need good apparel that fits them correctly and that can be tailored correctly to them. So
well, and it's stuff that we're comfortable in because it is hard.
Yeah.
They make it all day long.
right. No,
I
but
mean,
tailoring it, getting it the
Airstitch
right
and-
size. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, they'll do it. It's just yeah, it can get a little pricey if you're not careful.
And I think the label is a big part of it too, right? I mean, if you just, I see labels on motorcycle gear all the time, and it seems like you're buying like, you know, kind of like like
all day long.
like Nike logo. You know, you're buying the Nike logo on shoes, and not so much the shoe. If somebody just made like good apparel that lasts, that's not about the brand, it's more about, you know.
Well, and are you comfortable in it?
Right.
I got friends
That's
who wear
huge.
air stitch all day long, and other friends who are like, I'd never touch that stuff. You know, like a whole bodysuit. Whether it's hot or whether it's cold, you're wearing a bodysuit. You know, a whole body armor.
We just need an old
Yeah.
Navy of motorcycle gear,
my
like
God.
just cheap but good. You
They got
know,
a good one up in Calamasa, but
Oh.
there's I'll have to turn you on
that.
this neat old
Nice.
lady named Sue runs Buckles and Belts up there in
Oh, cool.
Calamasa. Yeah, they got
Yeah.
some cool stuff.
That's
Well,
always nice
and
to know.
We're but you never can find. I end up picking up something from here, and then picking up something from Chaparral's, and picking up something from the internet. I mean, you pick
Yeah.
it up all over the place.
Well, and
You
I
just-
think for me, it's not so much about like, I know a lot of people want to flash their brand, like, oh, I'm wearing a Dionysi jacket. I'm like, oh, you can go fuck yourself. I
big
really
ol'
don't care.
Fox logo or
Yeah,
something.
you know. And for me, the reason I like to wear things like anything Babes Right Out, I'll wear the fuck out because I want people to ask me about that so I can tell them like, it's this badass event and you have to go because that event changed my life hands down. That was a turning point for me, and I love it so much. So anything Babes Right Out, I will wear and wear it with pride. But I also like to wear motorcycle company stuff so that, you know, people will ask me and I can just turn them on to the interest of like, yeah, you know, like, what do you do when you're a girl and you ride? And it's just like, yeah, like, why the fuck not? You know, I'm aware that it's a dangerous hobby to have, but I'm not going to live my life in fear, and I love what I do, and it's just like, ask me about it. So I don't wear it to show off like, oh, you know, look how bougie I am, but I also don't own any bougie things. But I think it's just kind of like brand awareness for me. That's at least why I do it. So.
Well, we are very fortunate in our times that women can get riding. We got a great podcast, Connie, our friend Connie's
hell yeah.
podcast, Girl on a Moto. That's a wonderful resource. And then the list can go on and on, but we're very lucky to have that these days. And I think whether you're male or female these days, it doesn't matter anymore. It just matters if you ride or not. So, and there's a lot more dangerous things you could do. You could be hanging out at the sex club every weekend or something. You know, that's really dangerous.
You can do both. You can ride your motorcycle to the sex club.
You could do that.
Ooh,
I think
never thought about that.
Yeah. I think you're more likely to get bit by a shark than in a motorcycle accident. So
Yeah.
just stay the fuck out of the water and you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if you get
exactly.
bit by a shark on your motorcycle?
That would be cool.
Then you're just a badass. Yeah, you're
I would
jumping
buy a
over
lotto
shark
ticket.
Go buy a lot of tickets. That
Yeah,
sounds-
and get struck by lightning.
Oh,
God
man.
hates you.
Winner.
Give us your IGs, Kelsey.
So I recently started a new Instagram.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I started it not because I want likes or followers, but because I want to not necessarily leave a bigger footprint, but have a greater hand in the motorcycle community. So I started an Instagram that's biker.bohls, Bohls. That's my nickname. And I just kind of document my rides, post about anything. Like, for example, for bike night, open mic bike night, I made a post saying that I was going to meet up, or we could meet up at a gas station and ride out. And I went there at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, I rode out by myself because no one showed. But you know what? Hopefully over time, people will start to follow my Instagram and I can go on some awesome rides. It's just about bringing awareness to the community. I know that it's out there, but I just want to try to be a greater presence and at least have a part in that as
So
best I
one
can.
more time, that's on Instagram.
Biker.bohls, Bohls.
Perfect.
Amen. Kelsey, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
It's
thank
always
you
a
for
pleasure,
having me.
dude.
Thank you,
This
Kelsey.
was awesome. No problem.
All right, so I guess it's about that time we wrap things up. What do you say, Bob?
Well, we should say a big thanks to our sponsors, Flying Dutchman Co. and Ride 1K in a Day. And don't forget the Bow Monster. I will tell you, if we get this podcast out in the next day or two, the answer is Thursday. We're having the big book release party at Back to the Grind.
Yeah, Back to the Grind. That's in Riverside on University Avenue between Lemon and Orange Street. It's right off the freeway. Easy to find. It's right next to a couple of bars. So come
6 to 9.
Yeah, so come hang out with us, buy the book, and then you can hang out at the bars with us. You can find us online at AmericanRoadrunnerTheBook.com. On Facebook, we're at American Road Runner The Book. On Instagram, you can find us at American Roadrunner. That is all one word. Any comments, questions, concerns, email us at AmericanRoadrunnerTheBook@gmail.com. And as always, this podcast can be found on AmericanRoadrunnerPodcast.com. All the things that we do here are built around the book, aptly named American Roadrunner by Bob Marshall, on Amazon paperback, ebook, and coming soon an audiobook. That is a lot of American Roadrunners, right, Bob?
God bless us. I got to tell you, I'm real excited. I just got a nice message from one Mr. Danger Dan, and his comment was pretty right on. He said, hey, let's do a podcast sometime. I said, thanks, but I'm a little busy doing my own podcast right now, but I'm going to give him a call in a bit. Do some more darn podcasting. Thank y'all, everybody. Be better humans. Enjoy our music by Meek.
Thank you.